Shalom. Call Hello Yahweh Shema Shai Bahashem Rakah. Double honors be unto the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and that freedom to do so now more so than ever. To the scattered, hopefully elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, mixed in with the heathen nations that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners, and to the Akwaf, the women of Israel that are listening and learning. To you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm with another lesson in truth. And I think I'm going to call this Same Scriptures, Different Day. Information keeps surfacing that's proving the prophecies to be true, that this society is indeed falling, that it's Salakia, I was interrupted there, that it's not going to return, it's not going to come back. All right. So without any further ado, let's grab a scripture. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 12, verse 3 and 4, and it reads, "And in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and the look out of the windows be darkened, and the doors shall be shut in the streets, when the sound of the grinding is low, he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low." America has come basically to a grinding halt. There's not a lot of travel. There's not a lot of foot traffic anywhere. There's not a lot going on. People are staying at home. And what that's doing is it's destroying all businesses, small and great, especially the small businesses.
Hey guys, welcome to the Silver Report Uncut. Now we are heading for more food disruptions than we could possibly imagine. There are tons and tons of small farmers right now that are on the verge of bankruptcy. They're even to the stage where they are just dumping out tons of produce to rot in the fields. Now you can ask, why would this happen when there's so many people lining up? I mean, we have lines that are miles long. There was a food bank in San Antonio that served 10,000 families. How can 10,000 families be on the verge of starvation, and yet farmers in America are dumping out produce to rot? We've seen videos and images surface recently of milk producers dumping thousands of gallons of milk, while in the grocery store near me, you can't even find a gallon of milk. Now, interestingly, there's some regulations to prevent the milk producers from selling their milk directly to consumers. It has to go through this intermediary. Now, there were some actions attempted by Thomas Massey to reverse this and to allow them to begin selling to the public. But the problem is, not that there is necessarily a lack of food. There are well-established food distribution chains in the United States. Since we have a number of restaurants and hotels that have shut down, a lot of these smaller farmers, they have been dependent on their main customer. They are in the process of trying to alter their habits. They're in the process of trying to alter the way they distribute food and trying to directly market them to the consumers. Some of them even have some great prices, unheard of prices, but the problem is this will take time. So that's why we still see empty shelves in the United States. There's also the other big problem is that a lot of these companies and commercial growers that supply grocery stores are very, very large farms. They have well-established contracts, and they're not able just to take food from anybody. There are the workers who go and harvest this food that travel to the United States to specifically do this job that a lot of Americans just don't want to do. I mean, do you really want to be in Georgia harvesting watermelon out when it's 105 degrees? Not really. Now, these are only the beginning rumblings of a problem. This is a major wave that is rushing our way, and we are going to be hit hard by what we're facing. So technically, there may be an oversupply in many places, Yet the supply distribution system has been fragmented. Actually, the same thing happened during the Great Depression. There were people that were lining up desperate for food. There were people that actually starved in this country, and at the same time, you had farmers then going bankrupt left and right. And you think if there's such a tremendous need on one hand, and on the other, such a amount of supply, why can't they meet in the middle? Every depression is different. During the Great Depression, a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people were farm workers as well. And without a job, you certainly can't buy food. And the farmers, they were unwilling to just simply give it away, or at least to an extent. If you're giving it away, you can't keep your commercial farm operating very long. It becomes, not profitable to go and to get these crops out of the ground. It requires a lot of work, a lot of investment. Every year, many of the farms in the United States take out loans to be able to purchase their seeds, to be able to purchase tractors, because that's how we farm these days. And there's a lot of companies that prey on these farmers year after year. And whenever you make all of your money in one go around, it typically leads to you having to cover all of your bills at once. So because of the availability of farm credit, a lot of the farming industry in the United States has grown well accustomed to this system of depending on the banks. So somehow the banks have involved themselves in our food distribution system. Now, when you have a year when the rains keep falling, especially during the peak planting season, so that you cannot run your multiple ton tractors in the fields because you will get stuck, they'll get bogged down. You simply can't plant those fields. Also, if there's water sitting on the fields, your plants won't germinate correctly. They will drown. So millions of acres last year went unplanted in the United States, which is why we saw such a large amount of farm bankruptcies, because bankruptcies are typically whenever debt meets lack of money. Now, it's a major problem right now because tremendous investments have been made in harvesting this food that has now either been donated, given away. So for the time being, there was a oversupply and really, really low prices. But following this, we're going to see a dramatic change to which there's just not enough supply and very, very high prices. Now, there could also be some issues like we saw in China where there was restriction on travel, and then food can't be transported into the major metropolitan areas where a lot of the demand happens to be. They've spent the last 10 or 15 years funneling us all into these economic zones in the United States, which are essentially food deserts. The places where it is grown, if there is a disconnect from where it is eaten, then you have the same thing we saw during the Great Depression. If you don't have workers coming across that are able to go out and to plant and to harvest your tomatoes, you don't have tomatoes. Now, according to the AP, thousands of acres of fruits and vegetables that are grown in Florida, they were plowed over or they were left to rot because farmers who had grown the crops to sell to restaurants or other hospitality industry buyers, of course, there's the theme parks, schools, they no longer had that demand, and there wasn't enough buyers in the places where they needed them to be, so there was tremendous losses. Now, most likely, not always, but most likely, those farmers are up to their neck in debt. They're probably now over their head. Now, this is some of the reason we've been hearing a lot about bailouts for the farm industry and how we're going to support the U.S. farmers. 2020 is going to be the year of bankruptcy. Not just for corporations, but for farmers. There's also the big problem about the Mississippi, about the floodwaters coming up once again and flooding out the cropland here in the United States. Now, the farm the AP was talking about, he said that 80% of the tomatoes that are grown in Florida, they're meant for the restaurants and the theme parks. Now, we have another problem. People are staying at home. They're not going to the grocery stores that often anymore. A lot of people are attempting to avoid going to the grocery store at all. That's where it gets really crazy. Because across the United States, we are now seeing states move to ban the sales of seeds. So there has never been a time more critical to learn to grow your own food than right now. And yet we have governors around the U.S. who are actively preventing the people in the United States from growing their own food. And they don't realize the shelves may look very, very different pretty soon. I'm not just speaking about Vermont, but also Michigan has now moved to ban the sale of seeds. They've required their Walmarts, their retailers, to take them off of the floor, not allow people access to the seeds. So whether they realize it or not, they will soon be looking at empty shelves or extremely high prices and a devalued dollar and no access to food at all.
And that is exactly what is happening. That is exactly what is happening. So our video just the other day that the elder Apostle Tahar put up showing you hyperinflation. So eggs, milk for $10, soda pop for $6. Non-essential stuff that you don't even need, for just ridiculous prices for things that people buy every day. And as you can see, this man has put in place a system which is failing. Their lie IQ has failed them, and they failed the people. This is Jeremiah 49:7. Concerning Edom, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? And it seems that it has. All right, because they're leaving people to starve. And I've noticed with my own eyes how the shelves are not being fully stocked the way that they were in the past. There are a lot of items that are short or missing. And it's getting to be more and more depending on what store you're in and where you are. Jeremiah 49:10. But I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places, and he is not able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not. And that's what's coming to eat. All right, because they're running this COVID thing over and over again. If you have not learned anything from watching the Great Millstone videos, is that anytime that a story is ran over and over in the media, over and over and over again, it is a distraction story for something else. And it's almost like there's nothing else going on in the world. It's almost like people aren't dying of other things. Truth be said, a couple days ago, not even a week ago, more people in Tennessee died of suicide than they did of COVID. But somehow that didn't make it to the mainstream media, even though it was in the news, in some of the headlines. You also have World War III still brewing. You have America fighting directly with Iran inside of Iraq, which is clearly going to lead to the Third World War. But because of this COVID thing, it's swamping the airwaves, and that's all that they're feeding you. Every commercial, every break, COVID, COVID, COVID. When you flip on the YouTube, when you flip on Facebook, social media, all those things, COVID, COVID, COVID. It is a distraction from reality. The fact that the system is failing, that the dollar has crashed. All right, that they have already put into place a digital currency. All right, and they're talking, and that they have vaccines already lined up. They're just going to roll them out, and the vaccine comes with the chip and the digital, which is going to connect you to the digital currency, and that's how they're going to be able to tell who's been vaccinated and who has not, who's an enemy of the state and who is not. The time of Jacob's trouble has begun. The hour of temptation is not that far off. So you're going to have famine, food riots, race riots, all of that is coming up is headed down the pipe, man. That's where we're headed to. All right, I'm going to jump down to verse 13. For I have sworn by myself, saith Yahweh, that Bozrah shall become a desolation, a reproach and a waste and a curse, and all the cities thereof shall be perpetual waste. Bozrah is synonymous with the nation of Edom, who is the so-called white people on the face of the earth. Call Halal Yahweh Bashim Abashai Bashim Rakak Wadash Wa Abad Babal Shalawam.